Hello, my name is Jaime Gonzalez, and I am from the Nature Conservancy in Texas. And we are doing a joint training with the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Our purpose today is to teach you a little bit about the iNaturalist app and how you can collect citizen science data about the wild animals and plants around you, anywhere in the state of Texas or beyond, and how this iNaturalist app can be used to participate in what's called the City Nature Challenge. We're very excited to offer this training for you today. We're glad that you're here. And if you have any questions, I'm going to give you some contact information for myself a little bit later on. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, all right, well, welcome to this iNaturalist virtual field training. We're going to try to do several things today. We're going to try to introduce you to the iNaturalist app and give you some good tips and pointers for using that app. We're going to introduce you to the City Nature Challenge. We're going to talk to you about what makes good observations. And we're also going to talk to you about how you can explore your neighborhood or your world, or even make a project that connects with a school campus, a house of worship, or other place that you are connected with. And so one thing that I'd like to say is, because this is a basic training, that you may not get all of your questions answered by watching this virtual training. So please feel free to contact me at Jaime.Gonzalez rather, at tnc.org. And I'll go ahead and shoot that email up here in a second. But I want to mention once again that I am Jaime Gonzalez from the Nature Conservancy in Texas. I'm the Houston Healthy Cities Programs Director, and my job is to bring nature back into the city to meet our health needs, our resiliency needs, and to make the place a more enjoyable place and a more adventurous place to live. I am joined with my colleagues from the Houston Museum of Natural Science. For any of you who have never visited the Houston Museum of Natural Science, it is definitely worth a visit. It's one of the premier natural science museums in the United States. And we encourage you to visit their website at hmns.org. All right, here's my contact information. If you need to contact me for any reason, please write this email down. It's jaime.gonzalez@tnc.org. This is the best place to contact me because I check my emails every day. I know that we are coming up on the City Nature Challenge, which is happening April 24th to the 27th for observations, and then April 28th through May 3rd to do the identification period. So we're going to try to identify as many things during that period, that second period, that we can from the first period, which was the April 24th to the 27th. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. One other thing I'd like to mention is that on Earth Day this year, on April 22nd, at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to be offering a lecture jointly, again, with our great partners at the Houston Museum of Natural Science, called Saving Houston's Biodiversity with Your Smartphone. So we're going to talk about the biodiversity of Houston, where it's headed, and the role of citizen scientists in cataloging the diversity of life here, or the biodiversity, and how you guys can get plugged into the conservation movement here to help save our world-class wildlife and plant life. And more of this information can be found on our Facebook page at the Nature Conservancy in Texas. It's an event, but I'll also be sending some notes along with this video, and I will have information about how to sign up for this lecture. Let me introduce you to where we're coming from. We're coming live from my house today, which you'll see later on. The outside of our house we've affectionately dubbed the Butterwick Gonzalez International Toad Reserve. It's a little bit of an inside joke, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to catalog all the life that we can using iNaturalist on our own property. And I'll show you how to do that later on in the broadcast. But every year we plant our full front yard into what we call the Hatton Spring Prairie. So we have Texas wildflowers right here in the middle of the city. We're very close to the Astrodome, if you're familiar with Houston. And people come by and they take pictures of their pets or their kids. They like to interact with the wildlife and the wildflowers. And I have a particular fondness for the iNaturalist app because it's allowing ecologists like myself and other people across the planet to really get great data that we can study and analyze to help wildlife and to understand how wildlife lives, even in the middle of the city. I've taken it so far that my license plate is iNat. That's right. So I'm a believer. And so if you have any questions about iNaturalist, like I said, go ahead and email me after the training and I'll be happy to help you. So one thing to note here is that iNaturalist is an app that you can find on your smartphone. It's also an application you can find on your desktop. And it is jointly run by the California Academy of Sciences and the National Geographic Society. And there's nothing that's come on the scene here recently in ecology and monitoring that has really had this much of an impact. It is really a powerful tool, and it fuels what's called the City Nature Challenge. The City Nature Challenge is a worldwide competition, typically between over 150 to 200 cities to see who can go out within a specified time. And once again, this year is from April 24th to 27th to go out and get observations about local wildlife using the iNaturalist app and also local plant life, and to use that data to add to a set of information that we have. And typically the way that it works is that cities can win for having the most observations, the most observers, or the most species observed. But this year, because of COVID, we really want to support one another worldwide. And so it's not a challenge or a competition where we're competing against other cities. We're going to really be uplifting each other this year because that's what's needed. Yeah, we'll be able to see how many species we are finding in our respective communities. So if you're joining us from Dallas or Austin or Amarillo or the Valley, I will say, and we'll show you this, that there are many different teams across Texas. And those teams can help you get oriented as to your particular location. City Nature Challenge, I'll point out, is co-run by the California Academy of Sciences and the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. And this arose because in 2016, these were the two cities, San Francisco and LA, who actually set up the first City Nature Challenge. They were competing against each other to see who had the most biodiversity and who could get out there and measure it. And since then, it's really blossomed. We believe that this year, 2020, we'll have over 200 cities, even with COVID, participating in this challenge. So it's really gone global and it's really exciting. We can't thank National Geographic, the Academy, and the Natural History Museum enough for providing this platform for us. Here locally, because I'm in Houston, I'd like to mention that if you're anywhere in Texas, we have wonderful state leadership at Texas Parks and Wildlife, and in particular in the city or the Nature Trackers program. Nature Trackers, if you're not familiar, is a citizen science program that is run by Texas Parks and Wildlife to get regular folks out there measuring, monitoring, and enjoying nature. And so they are our state leadership, and they're doing a fabulous job. Locally, the City Nature Challenge is co-coordinated by the Nature Conservancy in Texas and the Houston Museum of Natural Science. But we are just part of a massive team of individuals and groups that are committed to making sure that wild native plants and animals continue to thrive into this century. And they are a part of what's called the Houston Galveston team. And the Houston Galveston team is very large in extent. We're going to go ahead and show you how big that is. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and switch screens now. I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen here and share it. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to stop share for just a moment. Make sure that this is open. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. because I do get this question a lot, like, where is the City Nature Challenge? And in terms of our particular team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to point you to this. This is the City Nature Challenge Texas team page. And this is put together by Texas Parks and Wildlife. The easiest way to find this is just to Google Texas City Nature Challenge. And you can see right there that we're going to be collecting observations from April 24th to the 27th. If you scroll down, you'll see a number of things. But one thing that you'll see right here is it says Texas City Nature Challenge 2020 iNaturalist projects. So what I would do is, if you're in a major metro area, is I would see if your major metro area has a team. And here's our Houston Galveston team. So I'm going to click on here. This takes me to the iNaturalist website, where our project, which is how you kind of collect information for a given area, is listed. So if you go down, one thing you'll see is there's the countdown timer right here. So it's counting down to the City Nature Challenge, or when your project starts. And if you take a look here at this map, it'll show you just the total extent of where we're collecting information for just Houston and Galveston. You can see it extends into the Gulf of Mexico. It goes over to Chambers County, Liberty County. It goes over to Austin County, Fort Bend. It's a massive, massive area. And if you were collecting information for the Dallas-Fort Worth team, you'll have an equally sized team, or equally sized footprint. Same thing for Austin, same thing for the Valley. What our wonderful coordinators at Texas Parks and Wildlife tried to do was they tried to make each of the team areas about the same size so that it's fair. And so if you just search for Texas City Nature Challenge, you'll come across this, this website. Okay, I'm going to get back over to our presentation here. And I'm going to get you back over here. All right, great. Okay, so I just showed you that page, the Texas City Nature Challenge page. And I want you to know that Texas did really, really well last year. And that's because Texas is a really biologically rich place. So in terms of last year's challenge, and remember, this year is not a challenge where we're competing against each other, but it's good to note that at some point, hopefully next year, we'll be back to normal times, and we'll be back to challenging each other to go out and find wildlife. But last year, the Houston Galveston team came in first in the nation and third in the world for number of species observed. That was over 3,200 species and over 2,400 or 24,000 observations. But Dallas did really well as well. Dallas-Fort Worth came in 8th place globally and number 1 in Texas for the number of observations. They did a great job of activating people and getting them out. And Austin also did a really great job of going and finding folks to go and make observations. So we have a lot to be proud of here in Texas, and the Houston Galveston region for us in particular. Kind of emblematic of this, this surge in people's interest in iNaturalist is a person named Sam Kestic, who goes by the handle Sam Biology. He's one of the biggest observers in the world. He's observed 58,000 species. But there are other folks locally in your community that can also probably provide you with a lot of expertise. And so one of the great things about iNaturalist is you can look for people who are collecting data in your area. You might not have a SAM biology in your area, but it's very likely that you have some very active users, and I would ask you to rely on those folks. I'm gonna also point this out. So this is another great example of someone who is doing a great job. So there is a wonderful professor at Rice University named Sin-T Lee, and just on the campus of Rice University itself, he has made 3,800, or actually his team, but it's mostly him as the observer. They've observed 1,074 species on a college campus. So no matter where you are in Texas, whether you are in an apartment, whether you live next to a little city park, or if you have a backyard, life abounds. So if you've ever been to the Rice campus, it's a beautiful campus, wooded campus, but it doesn't have big forests and big wetlands and things like that. But even still, there's over 1,000 species there. So no matter where you are in Texas, you can find a lot of life. So don't count your place out before you go out there and observe. This is part of what the City Nature Challenge and iNaturalist is all about. Now, one thing that is super, super important is that during the City Nature Challenge, we want you to be as absolutely safe as possible. So I don't typically read off of safety slides, but I will read off this slide right here. Due to the rapidly changing situation around the COVID-19 virus, this year's City Nature Challenge will not be a competition, as mentioned earlier, but rather a collaborative global effort in which we celebrate the healing power of nature and document our local plants and animals wherever and however we can. And please note, many previously scheduled events have been or will be canceled in the following weeks. And what we suggest is that no one get a group of people together to do City Nature Challenge that they're not already quarantined with. So go out with your quarantine, so whoever you're staying at home with, but don't get a bunch of people together and go against local, state, or national health guidelines. We want everybody to be safe, and we want to flatten the curve, right? So just if you're going to do City Nature Challenge with us, we're very excited about that. If you want to do it with people that you are staying at home with, that's great, but don't get close to anyone else as you do this. In fact, in order to kind of promote this idea of staying a little bit closer to home and figuring out what lives around you, we have a hashtag backyard challenge. We're going to use that hashtag to try to track and promote on social media what people are finding locally. So we're really excited about that because it's going to give us an insight as to what you're finding in and around your homes, within walking distance of your home, if you have a little bit of a wild place, that kind of thing. So be safe. That's number one reason. We can get to the challenge next year, but we can't help you if you get sick. So be safe. I'm going to show you a little video about City Nature Challenge before we get into the iNaturalist app, show you how to do some things there. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to get back over here real quick. Okay. All right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen. All right, and hopefully this all works great. Okay, here's your screen. Like that. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to the 2020 City Nature Challenge. Our focus as we celebrate Earth Day's 50th anniversary with the world community. Now more than ever, we need to study nature in cities around the globe. We can't fully protect nature on this planet without studying what is living in cities. Using cameras and smartphones, tens of thousands of people will observe wildlife in their home cities from April 24th through April 27th, contributing to an international database of urban wildlife that will be used by scientists and naturalists to help understand nature in our cities and work to make them a better place for humans and wildlife. Now, it's your chance to get involved. Just imagine how many observations we can all make together. Go to citynaturechallenge.org, then take pictures of wildlife and upload them to our global database using iNaturalist or your city's preferred platform. Watch as experts all over the world help to identify your observations. Join the 2020 City Nature Challenge or follow along and see how we can work together to change the world.
Okay, wasn't that exciting? That was really great. It really motivates me. So now we need to get into the heart of the matter, which is what is iNaturalist? How can you collect observations? And how can you make it a part of where you live to study what's living around you? And one thing that was mentioned in that wonderful video was that we as ecologists and folks who are really geared towards making healthy places, which include people, um, we can't understand what to do or really understand wildlife unless it's documented, unless you go out as citizen scientists along with us as professional scientists, and you go and help us collect information about what's around us. The closer you look at nature, the more you'll find. And sometimes we see creatures even in the middle of the city that we would never expect. And that's the real nature of science, right? You don't ever assume anything. You go out and you measure it, and you monitor it, and you look at it. So this is part of the reason I love iNaturalist as a platform for citizen science, because it is measuring and it is monitoring, and it's real data. We're going to talk about how you can make your data very useful to scientists, because there's some things that you can do to make it really, really useful. And so I'm going to go ahead and screen share one more time. We're going to get started with watching a short little video clip about how to download your iNaturalist app. Once we do that, we're going to show you how to make observations in the field. I'm going to give you some tips on doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen again. Okay. Here we go.
Hey there everybody, this is the Wild Report, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can participate in real scientific research right at your own house with just a smartphone. Let's get started. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is download the iNaturalist app from your Play Store. Now I have Android, so the Play Store is the Google version, but it also works on iOS. So once you have it open, you just go to the search bar and you type in iNaturalist. Just like that, one word. So it should look like that when you've put it into the search bar correctly. Now you just click on the app there, and it pulls up the download page. Now you all probably know what to do here. You click install, accept the permissions, and the app begins to download. Now once this is done, I'll show you how to create an account. Now once the application has been installed, you can open it right here. So we'll open it up and it will bring you to the welcome screen. So we've got a couple slides here. If you want, you can go through and read these, but as of now, we don't need to. Let's get started, alright? So we're going to skip this. I'm just going to show you how to create your profile. Now it's really convenient. If you have a Facebook or Google+, you just click that button and it'll guide you through. But the other version is to sign up with email. So you just put in your email, make a password and a username, and you're done. That's all you have to do to make your account.
Okay, we are back. So that was a really excellent introduction to how to get the iNaturalist app and to download it. And so now I'm going to show you a short video clip that I took outside. But before that, we're going to go ahead and get to a couple of tips for how to make good observations, because all science is based on the quality of the data that you collect. And so if you take this mission of going outside and making these observations, if you take on that challenge, you should get the best observations that you can so that they can be used for scientific purposes, but also so that you can see the detail and the beauty and the exquisite structures of these animals. So I'm going to give you some tips here real quick. I'm going to get back over here. I'm going to share my screen again. Go ahead and grab this. All right, here we go. So here's a couple of tips in terms of making observations before we show you this video clip. The first thing is to take identifiable photos. Sometimes what people do is they are very, very far away from a subject, or it's kind of on the edge of the screen, or it makes it so that it's hard to see what you're looking at in that photo. So the first thing to do is to fill the entire screen with the subject if you can. So some things are not possible, like a giant tree or an alligator. Obviously, there's safety concerns there. But if you can use the zoom even to fill as much of the screen as you can, if you're using your smartphone or your camera with your subject, it's going to make identification by a human observer or or identifier or the computer program in iNaturalist. It's going to make it a lot easier for them to get a notion for what you have if you can't identify it yourself. Another thing is to take photos from multiple angles. Sometimes one picture can be a little bit misleading just because you're not getting the angle right, or the light might be funny or something like that. So if you can take pictures from multiple angles, filling the frame each time, that's going to give us a better notion as well. And the last part is this. Focus on wild organisms for the City Nature Challenge. Now, I want to be clear, for iNaturalist, you can document anything that's alive, anything from your grandmother's roses to the papaya tree that you planted in your yard. And I would encourage you guys, just in the normal course of using iNaturalist, to document all the life around you. But for the City Nature Challenge, we're particularly interested in native or indigenous species. So species that have been in your area for a long time. If you don't know, take a picture. That's fine. Make the observation. It'll be likely that you'll learn what it is, which is great. But for the purposes of the City Nature Challenge, we want you to focus on wild organisms. One other thing is, once you make these observations, it will be tagged with a tag. So if you can see that needs ID tag and the research grade, oftentimes, we need other people to kind of validate what we're seeing. And so if you make an observation and you think you know what it is, and you put that in the observation, other folks will weigh in. And at some point, after 2 or 3 folks saying, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is, whether it's a bald eagle or a green and old lizard or whatever, it will make it to research grade. And once it gets this very special seal of approval, what that means is that scientists who are combing through the data will look at that observation as really, really high quality, something that they can use for analysis, which means that your job as a citizen scientist has really, really gone well, because now they can use that for real scientific projects. All right. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a short video that I shot out in my backyard with some tips and techniques to take good observations. After we see that, then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to show you how to upload things from your desktop. So if you're not using a smartphone app, there is a way of using your desktop, and we're going to go ahead and show you that after we come back from this short video about shooting and making observations on your smartphone. We'll come back and look at a desktop version.
Using the iNaturalist app is really, really simple. So I've already preloaded iNaturalist onto my iPhone, but it comes in Android as well for Android phones. So I'm going to click on iNaturalist. And right in the middle, you'll see the Observe button. So I'm going to press the Observe button. And I'm going to remember a couple of rules for taking good pictures. One is that you want to fill the frame with the species that you want to take a picture of. So I'm going to take this picture from here, and that fills the frame, and I'm going to hit Next, because I want to take a picture from several different angles for each organism if I can. So I'm going to take another picture, so I'm going to hit the plus button up here at the top, and I'm going to take it from the side, and then I'm going to hit plus again, and I might take it from underneath, because the more pictures you take, the easier it's going to be for the iNaturalist app or a human identifier to identify it. So I'm going to click Next. Now I'm ready to upload this observation. One of the great things about the iNaturalist app is it has this What Do You See button here. So I'm going to press that. And if there have been a lot of observations of the species, it's going to offer you up a set of suggested identifications. I know this to be Oenothera speciosa right there, which is called pink ladies. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to share it. And at this point, what I'm going to do is you can just add it as an observation, or if you have a project around a school, house of worship, museum, library, wherever you've put a project to capture all the biodiversity observations from that area, you can hit projects. And I can add this to any of these projects that I'm on, and it will make sure that anytime I pull up that project, it will show up. So I'm taking this observation at my house, which we have, as previously stated, called the Gonzales Butterwick International Toad Preserve or Reserve. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to share. And there it is. It's uploading. And once it's done uploading, it will be pinned to a map. So when I pull it up on the desktop, or if I pull it up on my app here, it will then show up as an observation. Now, you can't always know what a species is. Let's say that I took a picture of a species and I didn't know what it is, so I'm going to click Observe again. And let's say that I wanted to take a picture of this species right here, but I didn't really know what it is. Wasn't familiar with this, so I'm going to take this picture. And if that's a good picture, I'm going to say yes. And for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to go ahead and use that one photo. Usually you take 2 or 3 photos from different angles though. So when I hit what do you see, and I click on this, it may give me something that I can know or not know. It says we're pretty sure that this is in this family of spiderworts. So I don't know that that's the case, so I'm not going to even select that. I'm just going to share it. And I'm not going to share it to my projects this time. But what will happen is dedicated identifiers in the iNaturalist community will try to give me their best guess, not a guess. Oftentimes these people are very skilled experts, but their best estimation of what species it is. And if that happens, my species observation will have a red flag next to it with a number inside. So you can see from this screen that the green anole has a 3 in a black talking symbol there. Well, that's been because I actually already confirmed that identification. But if it's something I haven't identified, it'll look the same, except the background will be red.
All right, we're back. So hopefully you got a notion for how to take your iNaturalist app into the field, make some good observations. But sometimes what we want to do is we want to use our own camera to take really great photos. Sometimes that's because birds are very hard to capture with your smartphone. It might be that you are doing some nature photography. It even might be that you're taking nature sounds with your smartphone or a recorder and you want to upload them to the desktop. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share again. I'm going to go to the iNaturalist app, actually the iNaturalist desktop feature. I'm going to go to iNaturalist.org, and so this is the screen that you will see. So I'm going to go to the home page here, and actually I'm logged in. I'm Habitat_Jaime. In case you ever want to see, or you can follow me on there, just like any social media platform. You can follow specific people to see what they're finding. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to upload to the platform here on a desktop. So let's say that I want to add observations, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an observation by clicking on the observations tab here. And I'm going to add 2 types of observations. The first observation I'm going to add is a picture. The second observation I'm going to add is a soundscape without a picture. So I'm going to go ahead and add an observation here. It's going to ask you to choose a file. So I'm going to come down here to the right folder. Here we go. And I'm going to add this flower here. And so the first thing that you're going to notice is that your flower photo pops up, and automatically it was populated with a species identification. And here's the thing. So there is an opportunity for you to have the computer try to understand what you're looking at. Many times it's right because the data set is getting very big. Sometimes it's not as right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here. I know this particular species, and it's not showing up right here. So I'm just going to leave it as this genus of tickseed. But because I took this on my phone and not on my iPhone or my smartphone, because I took this on my camera rather, instead of my smartphone, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to indicate where I got that picture, because otherwise it won't be able to pin it on a map. And location, location, location is everything with iNaturalist. So I'm going to go ahead and click on location. I'm going to go ahead and get close to my address. Okay, and I'm going to just, you can zoom in or zoom out in case, sometimes what you want to do is you want to make sure that people don't know exactly where something is, like a bird nest or something. So you can make this pretty hazy. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on my house here. And then I am going to next put it to a project. So I know that I want to put it to my project because it's at my house. And you don't have to put it to a project. But I'm going to put it here at the Gonzales Butterwick International Toad Reserve. And so it's at that project and it's ready to upload. So I'm going to upload it. And it's saving this observation. And there it goes. It's the most recent on my list of observations. Sometimes you'll want to do sounds, and iNaturalist is allowing you to put up sounds, which is, frankly, we oftentimes forget about sound and the nature of sound and how important it is for telling us about ecosystems. So if you ever get a chance to read a book or see any publications by Bernie Krause or a man named Lang Elliott, they're very much into soundscapes and the sounds of nature and what that tells us. Don't forget the sound. It's very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a recording that I made using something called an Echometer Touch 2. This is I'm going to show you right here. This is a small attachment that you can get for a smartphone. You can get it for iPhone. You can get it for an Android. And what this little special thing does from Wildlife Acoustics is it allows you to record using an app on your phone, a different app from iNaturalist, bat calls, bats as they're feeding. And it also pins these things to the map. So I made a recording using that Echometer. So I'm going to go ahead and add to observations. I'm going to choose files. And what I have here is this Mexican free-tailed bat recording. So I'm going to put Mexican free-tailed bat. And I didn't know just from hearing the clicks and chirps that that's what it was, but the folks from Wildlife Acoustics made a really great app. It's not iNaturalist, it's a bat meter app that could help me identify where it was. So the location was my neighborhood, and so I'm going to get in here real quick, get closer, and I am going to just get kind of close because I don't remember the exact location. So I'm just going to get in here a little bit close, and I'm just going to say that it was about right there. And I'm going to widen this out. And that way, I'm not being too specific about where it was because we were walking through the neighborhood. So I'm going to update my observation. And the date on this one was actually March 8th. So I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to change this to about 8:30 p.m. All right. And now I'm going to upload that to iNaturalist. Okay, and there it is. No picture involved because I didn't take a picture of this bat, right? But I get a sound recording. And sound recordings are really important. All right. So let's say that you've uploaded some observations. I'm going to show you something really cool. So one of the things that will happen is this little notice will come up, and it'll show you who's been commenting on your observations. So as you can see, these two are listed as needs ID. And so when it says needs ID, other identifiers will come through and try to identify it for you. When it's reached the research grade, that's when it's really useful. And so other people have commented on these. Sometimes in your app, if you see a little red observation dialogue icon with a number on it, it means that people have been commenting on your observation. And at that point, you will be able to get to interact with what they are thinking. So no one's really commented on this. And so it's not at research grade. It needs observation still, as you can see right here. This is a dusky wing of some sort, but I'm not going to take a guess at what it is. I'm going to wait for somebody who's more skilled with that. So one other thing that's important, and I'm going to stop sharing here so I can start sharing something else, is that sometimes we use different platforms for collecting data. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but we know that there are some really amazing bird watchers all throughout Texas. Texas is blessed with lots of bird watchers. They use a different platform called eBird. And eBird is a really great place to store and collect information about bird life. Well, what I would ideally like to see during the City Nature Challenge is for eBird observations to get put into iNaturalist. So along with this video, you're getting notes about how to do this. But if you just go to the City Nature Challenge Houston Galveston team page, these instructions are in the journal area on that website as well. And it basically runs you through how you convert eBird observations to iNaturalist so we can get all of those bird observations as well. We're very blessed with a lot of bird diversity here, so we want to get those. All right. So what we're going to do next, guys, is we are going to take a look just real quickly at how scientists are using all the citizen science data that you guys are collecting. And it's important to know that because yes, you're having fun. Yes, you're getting in better contact with the places you live. Yes, you are exploring your universe, which is great. But it's really, really awesome that you can do all of that stuff and add to science. Let me just highlight one project here by looking at this website here. So one of the things that one of our colleagues, Dr. Sophie Parker, did out in California is she assembled a very large group of folks to think about how do you use iNaturalist observations to improve the lives of wildlife and biodiversity. So what she did is she took a bunch of information about different kinds of habitats in the Los Angeles area, and then overlaid that with iNaturalist observations to create this map of different kinds of habitats that exist in this area. She called it BAILA. And BAILA is Spanish for dance, but in this case, it's an acronym. And so what was derived from this data was that there were certain places where there needed to be more observations. So just like that video said, we can't forecast what we need to do without observations. In some areas, there were enough observations to say, well, maybe if we put in this corridor, maybe if we put in this forest here, maybe if we put in a wetland here, we'll really improve it. So I do want you to know that the data that you're collecting is meaningful. It will improve things in the world. And we can't, as scientists, improve things unless we have data. That's what we run on. So I just wanted to mention that brief project. And you can see if you go to the BAILA, if you just type in iNaturalist, BAILA, It's really, really remarkable that in this area in Los Angeles, they've had nearly a 500,000 observations cataloging over 7,300 species of living things with over 8,000 identifiers. Incredible, incredible effort. And this has just ramped up within the last few years. And that's what we're seeing. And the more data points that we collect, the better the data is, right? So more data, better data, especially if it's done the right way. All right. So lastly, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at how you make this really personal by creating your own projects. And projects in iNaturalist are really great because what it does is it allows you to put a line on a map that shows you a particular place and all the observations that are done, have been done there. And it allows you to kind of focus people sometimes if you're working with a school or a house of worship or a community service group, or if you're in a neighborhood, or if you're in a city, or if you want to measure the biodiversity in a park. It allows you to put boundaries around a place and then really focus on that place. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about what you can do from there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and screen share one last time here. And I'm going to open up the iNaturalist app. So one of the things I did before this recording was I went into Google Earth, and I have a friend who lives just north of Brays Bayou from me. She lives in a neighborhood called Brays Heights. And so what I wanted to do was create a project for her neighborhood. And so the first thing I needed to do was to create a little map that I could import into iNaturalist to designate that geographical area. So I use Google Earth, which is a free application that you can use to explore the planet. It's just an amazing utility, but you can also make what are called shape files. You can kind of draw polygons or shapes around particular spaces, and then you can export that. And that's what I've already done. This is kind of a little bit like a cooking show where I've already done that work. So what you're going to do here in iNaturalist is you are going to do the following. You're going to hit on more if you don't see it, and you're going to go to places. And you're going to go down and add a place. So I'm going to click on add a place. I'm going to give it a name. So in this case, I'm going to give it the name Brays Heights. And then I'm going to choose a file here. And that file has to be in a specific format called KML. And a KML file can be made in the Google Earth application. So I'm going to click on here. And let's see here. There's Knollwood Village. Tell you what. I'm going to stop share for just a second. And I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to screen share one more time. I'm going to get us into Google Earth so I can show you how to do this. So here's Google Earth. Here are the contours of this neighborhood. So what I'm going to do is I've already drawn this, and I drew it using this polygon feature right here. And so now here is Brays Heights here. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to save the place as to my desktop, and I'm going to call it Brays Heights. There we go, KML file. All right, now I'm going to get out of here. And I'm going to now screen share again with Google Earth. And so I'm going to go to my desktop and look for Brays Heights. There it is. And place type is going to want to know. And there's no real good, I'll just tell you, there's not a super great designation for a neighborhood. So I'm just going to put a division. I'm going to save the place. So now that place has been saved in iNaturalist, and now I can make a project out of it. So once you've saved a place within iNaturalist, Now it's time to create your project. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Get over here. And where you're going to find this, if you're just logged into the iNaturalist desktop here, what you do is I'm logged in as Habitat Jaime. I'm going to go to projects, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says start a project. So I'm going to click on there. And what I would use is collection projects here on the left, and I would click get started. So we're going to call this Braes Heights. And I created a project banner to give it a little bit more flair. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to go down to the right folder. And there we go. And so I have a nice little thing there. And I'll go ahead and do a project icon. And I will just use a picture from, let's see here. That Coreopsis would be a good one. It's a pretty one. And that way, when I look at my projects, I can see all of my projects lined up, and each one has a little bit of an icon. And I'm just going to put in here a project to observe and enjoy the biodiversity of the Braes Heights neighborhood in Houston, Texas. All right. And there are all sorts of ways that you can define what types of data you put in here, and where you pull from, including if you want to just collect bird data, or if you just want to collect butterfly data, or whatever. You can also include right here which users can observe, but I'm going to leave that fairly open. The only thing I really want to do is I want to make sure that it gets collected from Braes Heights. So I've created the place earlier, and it automatically goes into the system, and it's available now. So I'm going to put Braes Heights there. And then I'm going to say down here that, any of this data is okay. Media type, you can say whether you want just photos or if you want sound as well. And you can also delineate whether or not it has to be a native species, or it could be introduced, or both. I'm going to put any. And then you can put it for a certain date. So for the City Nature Challenge, all of our projects are made between a certain start date and a certain end date, but this is going to be an ongoing thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on done. And when I do that, what you'll see is that you get an automatic read of how many observations in that little geography have already happened. So there have been only 33 observations and 23 species with 33 identifiers and 14 observers. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff to be done here in terms of looking and finding more species. But now that we got the project, anytime anyone makes an observation in that area, it gets collected for this. So this is very exciting. So you can start to see down here that it's already generated a map that has all the pins on it for what has been observed. So I'm excited to share this with my friend and her kids so they can start filling this out as well. You can also do this for your house. So if you just want to do a project, I'm going to go back to my projects. I'm going to go down to, here we go. And so what I have here is I just have a listing for my house. And these are all the pins that I've taken here. These are all the observations that I've made. And it allows me to keep track of what I'm finding. And so I can make a checklist here. I can show other people during presentations what I have found, and I can keep general track.
All right, now here's the field portion of the training. I'm here at what we refer to jokingly as the Butterwick Gonzalez International Toad Reserve, which is really our yard and our house. We do have a project on iNaturalist that goes along with this that I'll show you in just a bit. And but for now, what I want to do is I want to give you some tips and techniques for finding wildlife in and around your yard. Now, one of the things that I would say is that during this City Nature Challenge for 2020, we're encouraging people to stay closer to home and to use the hashtag backyard challenge, hashtag backyard challenge. And that is really to emphasize that there's lots of really great things living around us. So it's not going to be an in-depth training. I just want to show you around and give you a few hints for what we're doing. Now, what I'd say is there are two pieces of equipment that might be really helpful for you. What I have here is my snake hook. Now, I don't expect that you guys would have a snake hook, but whenever you are looking into underneath something, or you're going into a compost heap or under boards or anything, please never put your hands underneath or inside a compost bin or anything like that without first flipping it over with a stick, a broomstick, a large stick from a tree, something like that. Keep yourself at a distance, right? So have something to kind of flip things over and do that very safely. It is springtime, it's warming up, there could be snakes and things like that. We want you to be very, very safe. The second thing is that in order to increase that safety, what you might want to do, especially if you're working with small kids, is make something like this. This is an insect grabber, basically, and it's made out of a very simple plastic container with two bendy straws. And what I find is for you guys who actually get meal kits from HelloFresh or Gobble or somebody, that these make perfect cups for this. They're easy to screw off, and so you can get things out of it. And basically the way that this works is you make one straw as the straw that you suck from, and the other straw, the straw that you aim for the small insect. And what happens is, as you suck on this straw, the insect gets pulled in here and gets thrown safely into this receptacle. So I'm going to send you some pictures for how to do this as well after the training. So this is a good way of interacting with maybe little ants and things that might be bitey and to keep you safe. And you can also take a look at them up close. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some places where you might do well to find some insects and some other life. So every springtime, and I'll ask our wonderful camera person here to show you the front yard. It looks a little bit raggedy right now, but every spring we plant our front yard into a prairie. We've had lots and lots of kids come here and adults with their dogs to take pictures. What you didn't see is this is a carpet of bluebonnets earlier in the year. So anytime you can have flowers anywhere, that's a great place to look for wildlife. So even cultivated flowers or things like that can attract butterflies and moths and things like that. Also, shrubs are a really great place. You know, a lot of insects are looking for shelter, and they're looking for places to hide from birds and other predators. So this is called southern arrowwood that we have here. But what I would draw your attention to rather is to look under leaves, because a lot of times during the midday sun or just to hide, insects are down in the leaves, and if you're looking at it from this perspective, you might not see them. So go ahead and take a look around. Also, if it's a little bit cooler morning at the base of some of these shrubs or trees, things are kind of hunkered down a little bit. Also a great place. One other place is, you know, obviously on the side of your house on these cool mornings in April, lizards and other cold-blooded creatures like butterflies, use those as a great place to sun, to warm their bodies up and their muscles up so they can become active. And then there are places that you might have that would also get some wildlife and some plant life going. So we have a small little pond here, and basically what we do is we take the drainage from our air conditioning system and we run it down in here. Now you want to always make sure to not be creating a mosquito hazard, right? So we actually put BT tablets in here to control the mosquitoes so that we're not you know, impacting people with mosquitoes. But it's a great place because things come to grab a little drink of water or to hang out in the plants. Lastly, I'm going to show you another place that is great, and I'll go ahead and reinforce the message we gave earlier. So this is our backyard. This is where this is where we grow our plants that we're going to put in the front yard or in other places. But this compost bin over here is a really great place to find insects, especially and even crustaceans like pill bugs and sow bugs. But it's also a place that you need to be comfortable with in exploring and safe, right? So that's why when we are going to do the City Nature Challenge with my son, who's 5, we're going to use a snake stick to kind of pull everything back and look very safely, okay? Other than that, I think that the great news is that wildlife is everywhere if you learn to look. One other suggestion I would have for you is to go out at night in the evening. Look around your porch lights, your outside lights, mercury light in the street. There's bound to be lots of different things there. And also record for sound. So one of the great things about a lot of these smartphones that people have today is they have voice memos or voice recorders. Use that because you can upload sound files to iNaturalist as an observation. And a lot of times we don't pay enough attention to sound, we're paying attention to the visuals. So I'm going to show you in later on in the training how you upload a sound. In this case, a bat sound that we got when we recorded it with a special app. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me for our outside tour, and now back to the training.
I hope that you guys have gotten something out of this training, that you know a little bit about City Nature Challenge, a little bit more about the iNaturalist app. Know that you can always reach out to me at jaime.gonzalez@tnc.org, and we look forward to having you at the City Nature Challenge and beyond to collect information that is helpful for wildlife through the iNaturalist app. I bid you farewell and best of luck. Thank you so much.